and my connection with this panel is as an ardent fan of exciting new documentaries, especially coming out of Europe. And I also have a slightly tenuous connection with the Balkans in that I almost married a Croatian, a very good-looking Croatian, about 10 years ago. So I have attempted to work with the Balkans myself. Now, thank you all to all of you very much for coming this morning. We're all slightly suffering from the after effects of the roller disco last night, so I'm not sure that everyone who wants to come was able to make it this morning. But thank you all for coming, and we're very excited and lucky today to be welcoming 4 examples of this exciting new generation of Balkan filmmaking. So how it's going to work today is that I'm just going to introduce the panel and let you know who everybody is. Then we're going to have a fairly open, improvised discussion, debate, where we're going to talk about a lot of the issues affecting Balkan filmmakers at the moment, how they want to work with you, how you can work with them, how their funding models work, all those kind of questions. Hopefully we're also going to be seeing some examples of their work. We've got a few films of we've got some clippings of films that have already been made, some that have won awards, and also some work in progress that they'd like to show you. And then we'll be opening it up to questions. But it is fairly open, so if anybody has a question at any time, please do raise your hand, and we can just have this as a fairly open and fun time, especially because according to Oliver, if we were in Croatia, then we would not start any public event until 12 o'clock. Because that is the beginning of the working day. So everyone is slightly not on Balkan time at the moment. So let me start off by introducing our panel. First of all, we have to your right, Mila Turalic. She's a filmmaker from Dribbling Pictures. Born in Belgrade, Mila took the long road to being a documentary maker, or so she claims. You look so young, I don't think you've had time to take any long roads. On the run from political activism and mind-numbing academia, she converted to filmmaking in the belief that art will always be more subversive than politics. She says that she's challenged and fulfilled daily by the obsession to make documentary films, which I think is a fantastic message for anyone at Sheffield. Mila's debut documentary, Cinema Comunisto, screened at IDFA, Toronto and Hot Docs, and won 15 awards worldwide. Next we have Oliver Sertic, producer from Croatia. He works with Restart. Oliver Sertic is a media activist, filmmaker and a producer from Zagreb. He has published and edited for the press, web, radio and TV. He's the founder of Restart and programming director of the only regional documentary cinema, DocKino. Did I say that right? Okay. There's going to be lots of interesting name opportunities for me to get wrong, so you can just laugh at me as the funny foreigner. He regularly works with film festivals in the region as a programmer, producer and advisor, including, I'm assuming these are all big festivals in the Balkans, right? Liburnia FF, Supertal Super FF. We'll pretend they're big. Zagreb Film Festival and Human Rights Film Festival. He's currently working on a new film. Do you have some of your film to show us today?
Some of the films from the festival?
No, of your film.
Yeah,
oh great, okay. Then we have Alexander Nanau from Romania, producer, director of Alexander Nanau Production. Born in Bucharest, Alexander has been living in Germany since 1990. His first feature documentary, Peter Zadek Inszeniert Pagint, was released in 2006. He was the first Romanian director to receive an International Emmy Award for his 2010 documentary, The World According to Jon B., which played in over 45 festivals worldwide. He's currently in post-production with his third feature documentary, Totonal. Correct?
Right, Totonal.
Totonal, which was presented at the Central Pitch in IDFA 2011. Next, we're very excited to welcome Claire Aguilar, who's Vice President of Programming at ITVS in San Francisco. It's Claire's 6th time in Sheffield, so you're going to be showing us the ropes this morning. It's Mila's 2nd time. The rest of us are festival virgins. IDFS, where Claire is Vice President of Programming, lots of giggling there. They fund, promote and distribute independently produced programming to public television. At ITVS, Claire oversees all aspects of programme initiatives. She commissions US and international producers for ITVS's International Media Development Fund and co-curates the Independent Lens series, independently produced programmes on PBS. Previously, Claire programmed for UCLA Film and Television Archive, the Los Angeles Asian American Film and Video Festival, and curated film and media exhibitions for the American Film Institute. And lastly but not least, although he did arrive late on Balkan time, we have Gentian Kocha from Albania, director and producer of Art Lab Film. Gentian has worked for nearly a decade as a news camera operator for TV Klan, the national television channel in Tirana, Albania. His fiction short Antenna, 2008, was awarded Best International Film at DocFest in Prizren, Kosovo in 2009. His short film, Jinx in a Jiffy, great name, has won awards at Duras International Film Summerfest, the 9/11 Film Festival in Kosovo, and the Swisscoast Short Film Festival in Basel, Switzerland in 2010. And also, I must mention that Gentian has a film which is being shown later, you're appearing on something later today? Oh no, hang on, this is right. Not a Car Wash is being shown, it's your latest film, straight after this at Showroom at 10:45. So if you want to rush from this to see in its entirety an example of fantastic Balkan filmmaking, then you have the opportunity to go and do that in Showroom. So please, can we just have a round of applause for everyone on the panel? Thank you. And now I just wanted to start by defining what we mean by the Balkans. I think this is very important, especially for the Balkans themselves, because I was, do I call you Balkans or Balkanians? What would you prefer?
Croatian, Serbian.
Okay, you see, we're already into an issue here. It's an easy and a difficult area to define. I will define it, but it's a very contentious idea, defining what the Balkans are. And already when we were talking last night about how we're going to do this panel, there was already a lot of debate about how it was so terrible that not every single one of the Balkans would be included. And I was trying to explain that we can't possibly include sort of a dozen countries on one panel. So just so that everybody from the Balkans does feel included, I'm going to read out all the names of the countries that comprise the Balkans, and you can interrupt if I've missed any out. Okay? So Albania, represented. Bosnia-Herzegovina, not represented. Bulgaria, not represented. Kosovo, Macedonia, Montenegro, Greece, Croatia, Serbia, Romania, then also Slovenia. Anyone else?
Fair enough.
No, okay, so that is the Balkans. And the Balkan it comes from a Turkish word, which means chain of wooded mountains. So I was thinking that we could be some sort of breath of fresh air in a forest glade, representing the next generation of Balkan filmmakers.
It actually means blood and honey.
Blood and honey?
In Turkish.
Okay, okay. I think I prefer the wooded glade, but you can have blood and honey. Before we kick off the discussion, I just wanted to read out something from the New York Times, because this trend for this new generation of filmmakers coming out of the Balkans is starting to get noticed internationally, which is what really has inspired this panel. And this has already been written about extensively, both in the New York Times and the International Herald Tribune in the last 6 months, who are really tipping this as the next big hot thing. And this is just a fantastic summary of why this region is so fascinating. I really advise anyone, just Google New York Times Balkan cinema, and you get Junan Branell's fantastic piece, which gives you an amazing overview of the whole situation. She writes, a large group of talented young filmmakers from the region are making an impact on the international film circuit. Films like A Trip, Slovenia, Josef, Croatia, Tilva Ross, Serbia, The Wedding Tape, Kosovo, and Coco and the Ghost, Croatia, and documentaries like The Long Road Through Balkan History, Serbia, and October, Serbia, have all met with critical success at film festivals and screenings in the last year, both in the countries of the former Yugoslavia as well as abroad. And then she adds, and I think this is also very significant, the region has also been drawing movie makers from abroad. Angelina Jolie's directorial debut in The Land of Blood and Honey, about the war in Bosnia in the 1990s was filmed partly in Bosnia. And Ralph Fiennes' movie Coriolanus, also his first time in the director's chair, was filmed in Belgrade. Both movies opened in the US in the last few months. Penelope Cruz has also been filming in the Balkans, shooting the Italian movie Venuto al Mondo, Twice Born in Bosnia, while Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, starring John Cusack, was filmed partly on location in Serbia and is scheduled for release in 2012. The director of Filmfest Hamburg, Albert Wiederspiel, said recently, altogether, the next couple of years in this region are going to be very interesting. It's going to be a very hot spot. So this is obviously exactly the right time to be talking to you about how we can work better with you, what you're looking for, what your challenges are. But Mila, I wondered if you could start off either by telling us a little bit about your work, or I don't know if you want to go into talking a bit more about the region.
Should we start with the region maybe first? Is that...
Yeah.
I think maybe this sometimes helps people if... so I'm going to... This PowerPoint is limited to what journalist Tim Judah has now christened the Yugosphere, for want of a better word to describe the former Yugoslavia. But of course we'll be getting to other Balkan countries soon. But I thought I'd include a map because a lot of people get lost wandering around the Balkans and trying to figure out which country is now where. And the reason this map is drawn this way, and trying to draw a map of the former Yugoslavia is always very controversial, but the reason this one is drawn this way is that I was trying to highlight the places where there is a lot of documentary activity in terms of funding, festivals, distributions, cinema releases, and then territories where there isn't yet that much going on in terms of a documentary infrastructure. So Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia are definitely worth exploring a little bit more in detail in terms of how the funding is now working, what projects are being made there, what the potentials for co-production are. Bosnia, Montenegro, Kosovo, and Macedonia are still very, very much in development, so it's very much kind of territory to be explored, but not necessarily to expect an infrastructure there in terms of how things are done. Do you want me to go through just kind of briefly? I'll try and do this very briefly. Of course, if anyone has questions, we can stop at any time, or if you want to talk afterwards, that's more than okay. But so very, very briefly, Slovenia, Croatia, and Serbia have all had new film laws in the last year or two, which has been an opportunity for those of us who are making documentaries to try and lobby our way into an official system of financing. Each country now has a big national film fund which has provisions for feature-length documentaries which did not exist before. We were a non-category, basically. You were either making feature fiction or you were making short animation experimental films, including documentaries, and we've managed to kind of lobby our way into people recognizing that feature documentaries are an art form in themselves. Here you have some statistics in terms of what's the film fund's budget, how much do they give to documentaries. On average, Slovenia and Croatia slightly more money than Serbia, but I think this slide is probably of more interest to you, which is the co-production funding. In case anyone is interested in finding a co-producer in the region, I've put up some statistics in terms of how much they can give for a co-production. Croatia is by far the most advanced in terms of how the system has been set up. It's kind of a model for the rest of us on what we hope to achieve one day. So they're definitely the first partner to go after if you're trying to make a film in the Balkans. Slovenia is slightly lagging behind in terms of how much money they have now, but they do have a very well set up system, and we're hoping that there will be...
They have much more political problems.
They do. So it's kind of rocky at the moment.
The government is on and off all the time, so
Exactly.
they're changing people in the film funds as well.
Exactly. So it's all a little rocky, but in essence, underneath all that, there is an infrastructure. Serbia is very new in that sense. Our film law was adopted in December, so and we've just had elections 3 weeks ago, so everything's still kind of falling into place. But from the fall, we all expect to have a functioning system.
So what you're saying is that there is growth and there is financing, partly because you're emerging from a period of political turmoil And so there are exciting things happening, and new things happening, but also you face the bureaucracy of the past.
Absolutely. No, we're in a transition at the moment from a period in which you were very much on your own. It was up to your enthusiasm, your ability to find money more internationally than domestically to make a kind of feature-length documentary. And what's happening is a slow recognition of the fact that this is a valid art form. Documentaries are more and more entering into cinemas in the Balkans. Which was completely unheard of up until a few years ago. So there's a slow recognition of what we're doing, and it's slowly getting institutionalized. But of course, like everything else in the Balkans, as soon as the political situation changes, the whole system kind of disintegrates. So we're kind of always in this precarious balance of will this work or will it not work?
Yeah. Alexander, how does that compare to your situation as a Romanian? Or you live in Germany. Is there a sort of reason for that you have an international outlet because you can't get support and funding in Romania, or how does that
work? No, you can. Actually, Romania has a special position because the Romanian cinema was very popular during the last 7 years, let's say. And nevertheless, it's always, you know, like in the New York Times, it's always about the fiction films.
Yeah.
So when I think in this whole Balkan area, documentary is still seen as a minor film form, and as you have, let's say, a population that was educated by TV during the last 20 years, people don't really make a difference between reportage and documentary. But now you have a lot of initiatives also in Romania that they have different programs to train young students to make documentaries. And the funding system is more or less the same. As soon as politics change, people change. They fund now the new, you know, the 3 or 4 important directors because they can't not do it. It's not possible because they are too popular. But in terms of documentary, it's really bad. I was, for example, never funded. Even after the first Emmy Award for Romania, I was not funded.
Wow.
And the funding sessions are never regular. So you have one, they say they should have 2 per year. And they have for documentaries a budget of 200,000. But sometimes they have just 1 session per year. The last session was, I don't know, more than half a year ago. And the whole budget for documentary was about 120,000 euro, which is nothing. And they all gave it to one film about the Beatles. And I think I was 17th on the list with the project that was at the same time at the ITFA central pitch.
Okay. You've only got an international Emmy, you know.
Yeah, so it's not so important for them. And
right.
But what is good in Romania is that you know, you have in Europe now HBO Europe, which is actually in the Balkans and now also in the Netherlands, and they make actually 3 to 4 documentaries per year, and they go in with a funding, I don't know, between 50 and 100,000 euro. So there are not many possibilities to fund documentaries. That's why we depend very much on, you know, on broadcasters in the West. And yeah.
Gentian, do you want to tell us a little bit about Albania and is the financial situation good for you?
Në fakt, në Shqipëri situata është pak a shumë njësoj, domethënë si kolegët e mi, nuk është se ka lek shumë për film dokumentar.
In Albania the situation is quite similar to Romania and other Balkan countries.
Tani kemi 3 vjet që Qendra Kombëtare e Kinematografisë nuk sponsorizon fare filma, domethënë nuk kep buxhet as për filmat fiksion, as për filma dokumentar, as për animacion, as për filma shkurtër.
It has been 3 years that the Albanian Film Center hasn't funded documentary film director.
Sa vjen dhe buxheti po shkurtohet, domethënë.
And the budget is more and more restricted, limited.
Edhe në Shqipëri, domethënë, dokumentarin e konsiderohet më tepër minor nga fiksioni.
And even in Albania, the documentary is considered like a minor form of art.
Dhe nuk është se ka një hapësirë shumë të madhe. Kryesisht me dokumentarin marr, po thepin dokumentar, reportazhe më tepër marr televizionet, se sa është gjeneruar si zhanër nga
producing documentaries is an area of broadcasters and TV channels in Albania, but not from individuals.
Po që janë më tepër në formë reportazhe sa dokumentar vërtet, domethënë.
Which are more like reportage and not really documentaries.
Edhe unë kurse kam marrë financime për të bërë autokarriere.
I've never been founded from the Albanian Film Center.
Besoj ky është dokumentari I parë që përfaqësohet në nivele kaq të larta.
And this is the first Albanian documentary who's internationally represented.
Kemi disa festivale filmi, domethënë në Tiranë, në Shqipëri, po edhe në Kosovë.
We have a few film festivals in Albania and in Kosovo too.
Për shembull kemi DocFest në Kosovë që është një festival shumë I mirë dhe që na bën një prezantim shumë të mirë me filmin dokumentar.
DocFest in Kosovo is a very good documentary film festival and is a very good opportunity for the Albanian directors to go and show their works there.
Po që Shqipëria dhe Ballkani ka story shumë të mira, por realisht nuk kanë nevojë për financime, domethënë.
But I really think that we can find really great stories in the Balkans. And we have to help these film directors.
Sepse qeveritë, domethënë, kryesisht Shqipëri, po besoj në gjithë Ballkanin, kërsi intereson shumë kinemaja, sepse propagandën e vetë bën për televizionin.
Even the Albanian government is not really interested in making documentaries. They're mostly interested in producing propaganda from broadcasters. And I believe it's the same situation even in other Balkan countries.
Yeah, so lots of similarities, but a slightly more optimistic outlook in Serbia and Croatia, right? More or less.
It just depends on your mind frame, how you decide
yeah,
to look
it depends how early it is in the morning. Okay.
It sounds great when she said that Croatia is a role model for something.
But then exactly, that can also be depressing if you...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But Claire, to give the international perspective, you were saying that you were really keen to work with the Balkans. You know, why is that?
Well, I think that Genci kind of hit it on the head because of the stories that come from the Balkans. And our goal at ITVS is actually to share global stories with American audiences. And it's a region that is not homogeneous, yet is totally homogeneous too in the mindset of American viewers on television. But on the other hand, it has such resonance in terms of the events that have happened, the political events, the long histories and traditions, the culture, the humor, which is something that I would love for us to talk about because it's something that you really can't pinpoint, but it's definitely there, and it's different from Eastern European humor. It's the source of all of our humoristic documentaries, I think, come from the Balkans, the ones that we fund at ITVS, which are mostly sad films, sad documentaries about war and death and, you know, horrible things. But the Balkan films are funny in some ways, and it's very interesting. But it's a region that is so rich with stories, and also the way of telling those stories. And I think for Americans to be educated about that is just, it's a great thing. But we have a long way to go.
Yeah. Oliver, do we have anything that we could look at, maybe that would show some of that humour?
Yeah, actually, I just have a teaser of the film that Claire co-produced. It's Macedonian, Croatian, Austrian, and American co-production. The film is called Cash and Mary. So.
Yeah, great. If we could have a look.
I would just like to add something to what you're saying, because I mean, I grew up in the West, and I myself went back to Romania 3 or 4 years ago and started to rediscover the whole area and the whole culture. And the thing and the problem is that somehow Western Europe, after 50 years of the Cold War, still see Eastern Europe like we talk now about the Balkans. I mean, it's the most, or it was the most diverse area in Europe, where you had all the different ethnic groups living together, and so the culture is very rich. But the problem is that the Cold War made this strange picture that it's still not broken. Somehow, you know, you see on art and on all broadcasters in the West, you see films from Asia, from Africa, but the knowledge about Eastern Europe that is actually next to it,
close by, yeah.
It goes to zero, actually.
Yeah, and people's stereotypes.
And you always talk to people that say, "Oh, you're from Bucharest." Yeah, Hungary is a nice country. I've heard of it. Yeah. Or you know, and they have no clue about, you know, what ethnic groups live there, and actually, a lot of the Western culture and you know, education somehow started from people emigrating from Eastern Europe. And I think it would be good if even broadcasters would assume more this role of rediscovering the East. And not only meeting the people at the festivals, but maybe the commissioning editors should travel, you know, and not wait for us to come and say, oh yes, it's a good story, it's interesting, nice characters, but, you know, who cares? Where is this? Ukraine, Russia, where, you know. So I think it shouldn't only be us to be ambassadors to come and show trailers, or, because you never can show in a trailer something that you can learn by yourself. And it's not enough for us to come and be passionate about the stories. It needs our co-producer to be passionate about the region and to understand why he would want to tell a story. And maybe say, okay, maybe, you know, my audience won't understand it with this film, what I understood during my trip, but with the next one. You know, so I think it takes more, you know, they should, work more on it, on their side. Nobody should wait for the filmmakers to come and say, you know, that's Eastern Europe, because it's next door. You know, it's a flight costs about €100.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the Cold War mentality has kind of poisoned a lot of Western Europe. It's really
Europe,
close
and
to
I think
moving on from that.
it's ridiculous that we talk about the Balkans as if we talk about, I don't know, Hawaii. You know, it's not so far away. It's just around the corner.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that everybody's talking about this Eastern Europe like it's, you know, this black, closed thing where all these strange people come from. You know?
Can we watch something, Oliver? Can we watch something?
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
First picture.
The picture.
The map.
Yes, I just want to answer you there. I'm from Austria, yes.
Sure.
We're doing a lot of trying to make things in Eastern Europe. We're doing a lot, especially. And it's very difficult, especially with the national broadcasters there. And we're very close. We did something about lost lives in Gulag for women. Impossible to get it together with the Austrians. So it's very interesting. We work very close, but not in a PD possibility.
Okay, can we watch Cash and Mary?
Oh,
next one.
thank you so much.
Sure.
Oh, you can always, anybody who wants to come and go through this presentation afterwards with Mila is welcome to do so. It's fantastically detailed and really, it's really interesting. Can we go back to Cash and Mary?
Yeah.
Just take
Oh, lovely.
Okay.
Okay. So this is Cash and Mary, which you worked on together.
No, I didn't work with
You didn't work on this?
Just represented.
You were just representing it. Okay.
It's ITV's co-production with Croatia, Macedonia, and Austria.
It's a Croatian,
Macedonian,
Austrian co-production.
Yeah.
Yeah, we financed it for licensing for American television.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Hai da brojno planeš. Sad sam u svom životu sam radio flajere i dijelio flajere, ali ovako je nikad.
Definitely. Yeah. Why not? I mean, it's not for laugh, it's just helping somebody.
By getting married.
Please read this. If you can help us, it would be very, very, very nice. Just read it. It's not a joke, okay? Thank you.
love police is coming. What you did is...
Right.
The love police is coming. So, Claire, can you just explain a bit what was going on there? Where were we there?
Well, we're in Austria, and these are two Macedonian guys who have a scheme where they really want to have green card marriages, and they're hitting up women to see if they could marry them, and
But it's a serious thing for them.
It is a serious thing, yeah. But it's interesting. I mean, for us it was interesting because we see this a lot. I mean, there's a lot that happens in the United States and in Europe, of course, and especially, but usually men looking for women and not men looking, not men looking for women in other ways. I mean, usually, like for instance, on looking the kind of green card marriage, looking for women in Asia or in Russia. But in this way, it's like so close in Macedonia to Austria to be able to find that. And we actually go through the wedding and some of the cases in the film, and it's done in a really kind of light, humoristic way, almost like a kind of a road movie. But it is serious, and it's something that it brings you. It's the mind of trying to immigrate, or what really is at stake for them, for the two characters. Yeah, it's a lovely film.
Great.
It got great reception in the United States too, and it educated people about. It's like what you were saying about, Macedonia seems like this kind of almost like a fictional country. It's really real, here, even though we're mostly in Austria in the movie. It's very good.
Actually, it's the first real feature documentary co-production from the 90s in Croatia. So Croatian is delegate producer, Macedonian is a director, and it's the first documentary that's really co-produced in full, like to close the final structure and like to do, and it was very well accepted in Croatia as well. So but in Macedonia, of course.
I was wondering what you thought, Oliver, about what Alexander was saying about how the Balkans shouldn't really be seen as just one big mass. It's lots of individual countries with individual stories, but it seems to me like there's almost a tension between wanting to come together because you can maybe be more powerful and attract attention from abroad, but also wanting to be separate. There's a sort of a difficulty there, isn't there?
It is, but I think it's really individual. It really depends on everyone. Like, I totally agree with Alex. Like, they should come to us and say, maybe we should show something before, but there are so many interesting topics and so many interesting ideas, but people are kind of afraid. It's not only ignorance, it's also like people know Croatia only for war and the coast. So we are trying like to bring something else to the people.
I was going to ask that of all of you actually. And do you feel a sort of a pressure to, or almost does it happen subconsciously that you feel like you need to choose topics that are accessible for people?
I think it depends actually, it depends from year to year. Like not all the topics are interesting every year. Like this year is revolution, next year would be something else. Maybe in 3 or 4 years it would be us, maybe if there is another war. But basically, in a kind it's unfair because I understand the television are looking for something that's current and new and fresh and whatever, but universal stories are always universal stories and unique. You just need to look a bit better, and it's much more easier to look into your culture, to find the films in your culture and to take them for the TV and not to go somewhere else.
And Mila, maybe you can talk a little bit about this, because you, in the context of Cinema Comunisto, obviously it's focused on a sort of Tito kind of story, but also you managed to make it universal. Did you have that in mind when you were making
from the outset, because there's no real market in Serbia to sell a documentary. You're making a film for an international audience. It's kind of, even when you're choosing the topic, you realize that it's something that's going to have to travel if you want it to be seen outside of your circle of family and friends. So there's always this awareness of, is this accessible? Will people understand? And for me personally, there is also a desire to bridge that gap that he was talking about, where, Serbia was literally, when I was growing up, there was an interrail map of Europe that had, Serbia was blacked out. So we were literally a black hole for 10 years. And there is this desire on my part to kind of reintroduce ourselves to the world or the world to us. And when you were asking about pressure, more than pressure, I often feel a huge frustration that there is almost this demand for how the Balkans have to be represented. You know, we have to, it's very much defined by a certain type of films that were made in the 80s about the Balkans, but much more frustration when we're not given the chance to speak for ourselves. And I'll give you an example. In the past year, me and a lot of my colleagues have been told by commissioning editors from Arte, for example, oh, don't, you know, when we mention the Balkans in the office, everybody goes, oh, no more films about the Balkans. But then a week ago, I get an email that they've commissioned a huge series on the Balkan spirit from a German director. And then you get this frustration of the fact that it's always someone else depicting our exoticness, how wild we are, how weird we are. And there's a real frustration for me as a filmmaker to say, I'm really fed up with this European view of, you know, the crazy Balkans. I'd prefer if our filmmakers were given a chance to speak about ourselves. So there is this kind of mold that we're expected to fall into sometimes. It can be frustrating.
Yeah. Okay, I was just thinking that it's interesting because that problem could be partly solved by the kind of internal funding that we were, you know, praising, albeit with some reserve, for Serbia and Croatia, that you need to be able to have autonomy to make your own films so you can really show the world what you can do, so that then they will come back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I think, of course, from our isolation also comes this tendency to make films that don't explain the context enough. So there are films that are really kind of hindered by the fact that the people who are making them don't realize how little those outside know, and then there's really so much gets lost in translation. And I think a lot of filmmakers who have success, like Alexander, are people who have lived abroad and then come back, and they do have a real understanding of how little the outside world knows and how much you need to provide them in terms of context for them to really follow the story.
Yeah, Alexander, wouldn't you say that? I mean, that's frustrating to know the sort of ignorance that's out there, but it's also a gift for a filmmaker because you have an opportunity to educate, right?
No, I mean, no, I would like not to think that I'm educating anybody, but no, I mean, what Mila is saying is right, that if you don't really belong to any nationality, you don't care about the details, like, you know, if you are born and live in a culture, you think that all the little details are important, but if you are not attached to any culture, then you start somehow to think more universal, and, you know, to pick out. I mean, for the last film, The World According to Young B, that I made, for me it was just a character, and I didn't care so much that he was Romanian or whatever. You know.
Just tell us a bit about the narrative of that film.
Well, it was, we discovered this 63-year-old man living in the streets, actually in a room on the bottom of a garbage chute in a block. And this man had suitcases filled with 2,000 collages he made in the 70s, when pop art was actually completely prohibited, so he had no access to it. But somehow, in parallel to the West,
Ceausescu period, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was dictatorship, and so in parallel to the West, he created these collages that are beating a lot of Andy Warhol, and now he's a famous artist, exhibited along with Andy Warhol, and so you have a universal character somehow, isolated, with no access to Western art, who is producing something that is as powerful as Western art, and that is pop art. And that was about the character. It doesn't care. I didn't care if he's from Romania or from.
Yeah, he just happens to be Romanian.
Yeah, it's just that interesting character that had this, I don't know, this wave, receiving this wave somehow of, you know, what was going on in the 70s in the world, in the art world, and somehow he picked it up as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Etienne, how do you feel about this idea that you need to represent something of your country, or versus the need to be universal?
kur montoja dokumentarin Not a Car Wash.
I was editing Not a Car Wash.
Gjithmonë kam menduar domethënë që kjo është një histori vetëm shqiptare apo është një histori universale.
I kept asking myself if this is local or universal.
Kisha shumë dëshirë të tregoja këtë histori, por kisha frikë se mund të ishte një histori shqiptare dhe nuk gjente terren në
I really wanted to tell my story, but I was suspicious at the same time.
Por në fund fare thash ku ti plasë domethënë.
But at the end I said, well, who cares? I'll try.
Kam dëshirë kam nevojë ta tregoj këtë histori, kështu që bëj si
I really need to tell this story, so I'm gonna make it my way.
Kështu që pastaj më vonë kjo histori domethënë pati të shkojnë hot dogs, erdhën Sheffield, gjithë të festivalet, domethënë gjeti audiencën ndërkombëtare.
And then after this documentary went to hot dogs and it's here in Sheffield, so somehow the documentary found the international audience.
Po gjithmonë regjisorët nga Ballkani dhe nga Shqipëria, po përshtypën gjithmonë janë me të presione që po bëjmë një histori që është ballkanse, po si do gjejmë po themi audiencën jashtë Ballkanit.
But it's true that Albanian directors are always under pressure about this story of local or universal documentaries.
Sepse kam përshtypjen gjithmonë kam paraqyruar filmat nga Shqipëria duke thënë që janë filma okay, janë vetëm filma ngjarje shqiptare, nuk janë ngjarje universale.
Yeah, I think that somehow people in Western countries have this tendency to prejudge the films coming from Balkans. But if you tell a story about people and human being, somehow you'll find a way to show it. But this, it's good news because these last years, Albania has produced many films, fiction films and documentary, which are internationally recognized in the world. So.
Jam dakord që në fakt I paraqyjmë pak po vjen një projekt për të bërë në Shqipëri.
But I agree on what Mila said.
Sepse kur vjen një projekt për të shpjeguar është më mirë të marrë një regjisor që vjen nga jashtë sa të marrë një regjisor po themi vendas në Ballkan.
Because sometimes there are filmmakers coming from Western countries who really want to make documentaries on Balkan story, but filmmakers coming from the region, they can really give another perspective. I think that a filmmaker coming from Balkans can really tell in a very good way his own stories.
That's really interesting because everything you're saying about this, how to achieve some kind of universality, it really echoes what Michael Apted was saying last night. I don't know if anybody was at that. It was quite an incredible interview. He was saying that when he started the 7-Up, the 7-Up series that Michael Apted made, they wanted to make a film about social inequality. And over time, they realised that actually it's a film about being human. That's all it is. He called it the heroism of everyday life. But it took him many years to realise that he was creating something universal and not something specific, and that's what's given the documentary the longevity that it's had. Clara, I was wondering if, leading on from that, do you think that the region seems to give birth to this kind of tension between wanting to show ourselves and wanting to show the world? Do you think that gives them a real strength? And especially because they're all so young as well, it gives a sort of freshness to the outlook.
It does, but it's really true when Mila was speaking about this dilemma about really your identity being eclipsed or being represented by other filmmakers. And we worked on a series about women in war and conflict areas. So the film Pray the Devil Back to Hell, which was about women in Liberia, but also another film that was directed by an American director, Jenny Whitaker, about women in Bosnia and coming back after the war crimes and the rapes in Bosnia, but really from the women's perspective. And, you know, it was interesting because, I kept asking myself, would it be really interesting to have a woman director, a woman Bosnian director do this? Because it was so it's a very public affairs program. It was very much told from kind of outsider point of view, all the experts and the journalists. I think there were no Bosnian experts or journalists. They were mostly American, either NGO workers or women from the UN or journalists who were Western or European. And also the women's identity had to be, hidden, so they all had black bars over their, eyes. So it was sort of like, well, it's a little bit frustrating because you really want to know the identity in these stories and authentically, but they're mediated through this, Western and in this case American journalistic kind of veil. And it's a problem because, and then you see a film like Cash and Marion, for some audiences they might say, I don't know, they're just a bunch of guys running around and I'm not sure what's happening here, because the context is very much assumed in a lot of ways. You have to glean so much. So there's often a big divide between something that is a little bit like the Bosnian series, spoon-fed to you with a lot of context and a lot of American sort of experts, and yet might not give a realistic or authentic picture of what has happened historically or what is going on now. And then something like Cash and Mary, which comes from the, from the roots, but on the other hand in this case, I don't think it did go over everyone's heads. I think people got a lot out of it, but they could have gotten like a stereotype of, in the United States, we have the wild and crazy guys that were on Saturday Night Live. That's a kind of Balkan stereotype that people feel very close to, and yet it hasn't been contradicted so much. So I think that's a huge problem. I think in other cinemas, it's been interesting how this has been approached, especially in Africa, which is not homogeneous, but also, people like our own Sarah Palin calls Africa a country instead of a continent. In the same way, we have to learn, what is distinctive about each African country, what are the regions, and got a long way to go. But for Balkans, it's just, I think the philosophy is just show it, show as much as you can, and then people will learn what the diversity is. Mila's beautiful film, about this cinema comunista, which, it kind of harkens back to the old days of the former Yugoslavia, but so many people don't know what that history is, so in a way you're doing two history lessons in a way about the contemporary history and then the past.
I'd love to hear Sarah Palin's definition of the Balkans. That would be that would be great.
I'm sure she can see the Balkans from where she stands.
I'm sure she can. She can see everyone from her window. Oliver, I was just wondering, thinking back when I talked about that New York Times piece in the intro, and that mentions that the Balkans have become an area where people want to go and film, but they often want to go and film fiction. Is that something that's a bit of another sort of difficult area? Because obviously you want to attract the investment, you want people to know where it is, you want Angelina Jolie to sort of publicise the area, but at the same time it's not helping documentary film. In fact, maybe it's just reinforcing stereotypes.
Yeah, actually it's nothing new. Like the Balkan region is really beautiful, and Western companies really filmed a lot in Croatia and Serbia and like Yugoslavia, and Cinema Comunista tells a lot about that. Like so many Western co-productions were made with Avala Film or Jadran Film, Zagreb and Belgrade based, huge studios, because Tito was crazy about the cinematography and he made like huge cities like Geni shows in his film, this audio that collapsed later. It doesn't help documentaries at all. It really depends about the film centers locally, and Croatian Audiovisual Center made a national strategy to help filmmakers, and they brought some laws about tax incentives and things, but it doesn't work really in practice. It's going to work probably. Croatia is going to enter European Union next year, so everything can happen. So we are in constant transition, so it doesn't help at all, but in a way we hope that things will happen. But in last 3 or 4 years we really got some co-productions, mainly in fiction of course, but also some documentary co-productions with Croatia. So maybe Mila can say something more about Slovenia.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, there's a lot more integrating between the countries because we've discovered, in a way, there's no language barrier between Serbia, Croatia, and Slovenia and Bosnia. So, you know, there's no need for translating stuff. We all speak the same language. We all get the same things. And we've realized that in one way, it's a way of pooling together resources. You know, we can simply apply to each other's funds. And there's more and more of these types of co-productions happening. So that is really developing. The kind of influx of the Westerners coming to make films, it's a double-edged sword. I've worked on, I mean, the way I make an income to make documentaries is by working on these types of productions. And on one hand, there's a huge transfer of knowledge and experience, and so it's raising the level of our crews. But potentially what could happen is what happened in Bulgaria, where local filmmakers can't find film crews because they're all working on the big American productions. So it's a double-edged sword. You begin to lose access to skilled crew because they're all on kind of contract working these B television series that are being shot there. So it's really a double-edged sword.
Right.
It's happening, like we just talked yesterday, that also Alex had a problem to find a sound engineer in Romania. Like Romania is huge. We face the same problems in Croatia. Like everyone are working on the soap operas. It brings the money. People are doing commercials and things. They can't survive from the documentary itself. And then we need to educate people ourselves to have them for the documentaries, because like Game of Thrones is now made in Croatia, and like everyone, like half of the live production went to Dubrovnik to make Game of Thrones. So it's really hard to find reliable people.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And also people that can keep a certain quality, because most of them are not trained to work. You know, working on a documentary is not like working in a safe place, like let's say a sound engineer. On a fiction film, he's safe somehow, you know, he has his rehearsals and everything. But on a documentary, he needs sometimes to concentrate for 12 hours, but fully concentrate and really be connected to the operator and everything. And the people are not trained yet. So it's very hard to get a crew together that you really can work and film with without despairing, because they are just not used to be concentrated. They are not used to not use their phone during filming.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot to do, and I think it would be good to build up some workshops, and so, you know, to train really talented people to work, yeah, somehow at a quality that is reliable.
Yeah. Oliver, do we have any other clips that we really want to show? Because we're getting up to, it's 10 o'clock and we want to leave some time for questions. It would be great to see something from, do we have something from me?
Yeah, I will show you Car Wash, not the Car Wash, part of the film by Gani, and some new things that Alex and Mila are doing. So let's start with it, not the Car Wash.
So this is from Not a Car Wash, and you can see the entirety of this.
União, instituição estadual, por paixões ju më përdoni forcë. Shikoni, këtu është dhunë vëlla. Ore kanë ardhur me dhunë, do të hyjnë në shkollë me dhunë. Na ndërpren provimet, na ndërpren konferencën e shtypit vetëm aty ku ushtrohet violencë e famshishme. Po nuk e përdyrë dotën, kota ke, shumë to. Keni në mënyrë palishme keni okupuar
Po në rrëtet palishme me represionin komunist.
Nuk kam nevojë për këtë. Ka politik kanë ka. Këta mund ta
Po nuk e përdyrë dotën.
Është problemi këtu. Daloni lidhuni student me pedagog dhe artist.
Wow. Gertie, could you just explain to us a little bit of the context there? What are we seeing?
This is about a story happened in Film Academy in Albania in 2009. When the government wanted to shut the academy down and get the territory, to give it to a broadcaster, to a TV channel. This territory used to be for 45 years a film territory, because it was part of Kino Studio, was a big cinema city, where there were produced 14 fiction films per year. And many documentaries. So there used to be an industry, a film industry in Albania before. But now the government has the interest to give all the film studios to broadcasters. Especially when they're close to elections, because they want to use them as a tool for accomplishing their interests. So they're not really interested in film and art. And the end of this story is that the government and the police, they managed to destroy the outdoor screen in front of the Film Academy.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't expecting such an unhappy ending. So really, not a car wash, it's the story of the struggle for survival for documentary film. So it was like a mascot for this festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Working with the Balkans. And you can see that at showroom at 10:45 if you race it after this. Do we have something from Alex that we could show?
Okay. This is Tottenham.
Tottenham.
Yeah, this is a trailer for the film I'm now in the editing room with. It's about 3 siblings who live without their mother because she was arrested for drug dealing for 5 years. So I filmed them during the last year before she comes out. And they live in the ghetto and were illiterate when we started filming with them.
Where is it? Where is it set?
Bucharest.
Bucharest.
Aș vrea să schimbe cartierul. Aș vrea să se schimbe soara mea. Tot absolut tot vreau să schimbe. Să nu mai stau cu gândul la mama mea pe mereu. Să am și o mamă lângă mine.
De când am căzut eu la pușcărie, nu au fost despărțiți niciodată, unul de altul. S-au iubit toți 3. N-am făcut nicio diferență între ei. Că n-au crescut cu tată, eu le-am fost și tată și mamă.
Când sunt supărată, vine să fac orice, să mă arunc pe geam, să plâng, să, nu știu. Am niște reacții foarte multe.
În baza articolului 302 Cod procedură penală, punem în discuție menținerea stării de arest a inculpatei. Aveți cuvântul, doamna procuror.
Vreau să mă fac dansator. M-am uitat la alții oameni și am zis, de ce să fiu și eu ca ei?
Geanta a ridicăm și telefonul, nu stă și mă.
Nu a fost cea mai frumoasă zi din viața mea când am auzit de club. Înainte nu știam să citesc. Am învățat să citesc, am învățat să scriu, am învățat să fac matematică, am învățat geografie, acum trebuie să mai învăț engleză. Ce să învăț mai multe. Dar nu am pasat să scriu. Nu mai plânge!
Una, două, trei. Foarte bine, foarte bine, mă, foarte bine. Foarte bine, foarte bine, mă.
Ia uite cum merg. Termină-te! Vezi că-ți dau cu cărările în caz de ei până la aici.
Wow, thank you for letting us see that. So Tortonella is the boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have loads of questions for you about that, such as how on earth did you get them to agree to do all of that film? It was amazing, but I don't think we have time for it now. Do we have time to see something of Mila's?
Yeah.
Great. And then we will go to questions.
Wait. Okay.
Speaking through the doors and the wall. Spike. There was reason to be afraid. And people were taken away. This is one apartment divided in two by communists because we were on the wrong side of history. That was the most terrible experience. Realize the country is going in a wrong direction. There is nothing you can do. You kind of try to protest, but you are minority. Nobody really helped us. It seems that I spent my whole life waiting for this door to open. Actually, more and more, they were closing. We were sitting in this apartment, kind of isolated, watching what was going in the outside world through the windows. I am the only one left alive who saw this door closed, and maybe I will live long enough to see it open one day.
So that's a trailer for something that I'm in development in right now. And, some kind of attempt to try and tell the story of the disillusionment that we all feel with the democratic revolution that happened 10 years ago. So.
Fascinating. Great. Oliver, can we see something of one of your productions?
Yeah, okay, we are just in the post-production phase of the film called Gangster of Love.
Gangster of Love.
Gangster of Love. It's about the matchmaker, another story about matchmaker, but I think it would be much different than other stories. So I think we are going to finish it in September, and it's basically we were lucky because we have a Romanian and German co-production, and we have an art on board and the Romanian Film Fund. So we are basically done with the financing. That's very rare, actually, but we've been working like people were having fun with the director and the producer, going on every pitching they could. Like they made more than 10 pitchings in the last 2 or 3 years to make this happen. So this is part of the, it's not really a trailer, it's a character description, let's say. So it's more interesting than the trailer.
Tu si, je li Anđelko do tebe, Fate? Kuken, bild, slike, kako se reče, ne znam. Kuken, Frojland. Dobar dan. Polako. Došla mi čak jedna bi došla iz Ukrajine u Baškoj Vodi i hoće da se sastanemo mi. Ona kada ona masu ima tih djevojaka koje mi se udale. Sad, da li Ukrajinka, da li...
Ukrajina je u Rusiji.
Je, Ukrajina. To je, jer mi smo rozgledali porijeklo na djeto. Lipe, zgodne žene. A one, evo vidite, to su lipe, zgodne žene. Je, Ukrajinka.
Rusla.
One su lipe, zgodne, u njih ima viška koji milijun.
Das ist moj otac. Moj majka ist Njemica. Und mein otac ist Hrvat. Ja sam Pola Njemac i Pola Hrvat.
Imam čak jednu i Bugarka iz Bugarske, jedna 32-3 godine. I lijepa je djevojka.
Napustio sam muža jer sam bila žrtva obiteljskog nasilja. Stalno me maltretirao, vređao, nimao sam sna. Nisam znala kada jedem, kada spavam. Udrio je mali sa šaku u glave. Vidjela kad situacija nikako nije dobra jer je počeo digati ruku na maloga. I tako.
Kako bi ti htjela reći, kako muškaraca?
Bih volio muškarac da je higijeničan, iskren, čistopluten, kako se kaže, da vodi računa od sebe. To je mene najbitno u jednom osobi.
Znači mora biti kulturan, fin, iskren.
Da.
I uglađen.
Ali najviše higijenu
i
taj osoba.
I higijena je na prvom mjestu.
Jer jedna osoba govori higijena,
mora
kakva je taj osoba.
Da miriše.
Ne mora mirisat, mora da je sređen, da je u čista roba, onda to sve govori. Ne mora biti namiris namure.
Mora biti šarmiran.
Mora biti izrijadan, eto.
Tako je.
Dobro, evo odlučili smo se, evo ti ovi trojica, ćeš početi sa ovi, onda će ako tu ne bude ništa, onda ćeš sa ovi bivši policajac.
Prva rezerva bivši policajac.
I ovi najzadnji će biti ove jer ona je 64.
Jure iz Trogira.
Pa imam ovdje jednu prijateljicu iz Bugarske, jedna lipa žena, zgodna, privlačna. Ona ima jedno malo dijete. A sad bi ti sagrišio, ma kad ja mamu volim, pa ja bi njezin 4 dice volim. Jer vi ste ti dečki, one limčine, samo lezi kući, nek mi ona dođe, ali isto nek mi ne jede i ne pije, i ne šminka se. Pa zato ti nema ženu. U kom ti stoljeću živiš?
Uhvatio me trema. Ajme mene.
To dobro. Malo treme, normalno. Ali proće tebe trema, jer ja sam tu.
ovdje sam ja u društvu i onda ti je malo manja krema. Evo nas. Dobar dan, kako ste?
Kako ste, Šinjeri?
Si dobro? Evo, izvolite sjest. Nešto kod vas malo škripi. Znaš šta škripi? Evo ja ti reći. Hoćeš izreći to Hrvaticu. Ona nije Hrvatica. Ona je sa u Hrvatskoj, hrvatski govori, ona nije Hrvatica. A ti si to zacrta isto kod da su one najbolje na svijetu. A ja kažem da nisu najbolje u svijetu. Sve su žene dobre. Žene nema loše. Bilo koje vjere, bilo koje nacije. A vi ste zacrtali neke stvari, fiksne ideje, imate ta mama, ko će vam je ugoditi? Crtajte je po sebi, crtajte je i pravite je po sebi.
Brilliant. If anyone deserves a round of applause, it's the gangster of love. And hygiene is the most important thing in a man. Hygiene is very important.
To Bulgarians, yes.
Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left for questions. Does anyone have any questions? Claire, I thought that brilliantly illustrated your point about humour, so that's a great clip to finish on. Any questions from the floor?
When can we see that film?
When can they see more Gangster of Love?
More?
Yeah, when will the film be finished?
It will be finished, I think, in September. But then we need to wait for like festival release, first one. So we are at the beginning of doing the planning now.
Maybe next Sheffield.
Yeah, maybe here next year.
I hope.
Yeah. You see how keen people are to work with the Balkans. Any other? Who has financed the film?
So first money we got, it was like 2009 or something like that, 10,000 euro per creation audiovisual center, so it's nothing. Then we were looking for more and more, and all those pitching I just mentioned, and then the Romanian Film Board came on, they came on board and they gave us some money. We are in co-production with Florin Jepan, and just recently we found Rise and Shine, especially Close and co-production from Germany, and they found Arte, ZDF, so that's more or less it. And yeah, we have like 9 TV stations on board. So we just recently got the media as well, media TV acquisition. More or less, that's it.
Good. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hi, thank you for showing the clips. I think we're all looking forward to seeing the films once they're finished. I was just wondering, is the EDN effective, the European Documentary Network? Has any of you found a co-producer or crews in other countries in the Balkans using EDN? Because you all mentioned how important that is, and how difficult it is to get out of the country and find partners abroad. Has any of you used the EDN?
We are subscribers of like EDN catalog, and we are using it that way, and like.
What is it, EDN catalog?
European Documentary Network.
Okay, European Documentary.
And it's a catalog full of good information. So yeah, and I'm happy to say that Croatian documentaries are more and more traveling around and looking for co-productions and like trying whatever they can try, just to bring, like we are still educating ourselves how to look for money, how to search for money, and how to adapt ourselves to the Western principles of asking for money. It's not always easy, but yeah, we are using it.
Any other thoughts on EDN? Any other questions? Shall we wrap up? Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming along today. It's been a fascinating discussion, and it was so great to be able to finish with those clips. So please, everyone, if you could give a warm round of applause to everyone on our panel. And please do rush along to Showroom to see Not a Car Wash, and we all wait to see more of your films at future festivals. Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you.